My name is Tarmack, and this is your Game Industry News Wrap-Up for the week of June 24th, 2017. Taking advantage of Bethesda stirring up the modding community and electing to follow suit when gamers everywhere were really paying attention, Take-Two Interactive issued a cease and desist letter to Open4. Open4 is one of the most important modding tools where it comes to single-player mods for Grand Theft Auto V. In the initial letter on June 5th, they made a claim that Open4, quote, allows third parties to defeat security features of its software and modify that software in violation of Take-Two's rights, end quote. Effectively, in a dragnet approach to attacking software which harms the GTA Online experience, they took down an offline modding tool. Steam reviews for GTA 5 quickly turned sour with an overwhelmingly negative status for recent reviews and dropping the overall rank to mixed, which is pretty impressive given how positive it was before this news broke. Rockstar went to bat for modders in the standard human shield method of holding the big bad publisher up to ward off the negative press and convinced Take-Two to change its stance. Quote, Take-Two has agreed that it generally will not take legal action against third-party projects involving Rockstar's PC games that are single-player, non-commercial, and respect the intellectual property rights of third parties, end quote. This new change of heart has a few conditional items which effectively say that it's not a change of heart at all, but just that they've backed off of the cease and desist against Open4, and that it could happen again at any time in the future. Gamers are ecstatic and calling for the negative reviews of GTA 5 on Steam to be fixed, which is a lot like cheering when a bear stops mauling your friend because it realized that it wasn't hungry, and then claiming that bears should be celebrated for not mauling your friend. Blizzard has made some changes to its gambling for children games Overwatch and Hearthstone. Loot boxes in both games will be moving to a more friendly loot box model, ensuring that fewer duplicates are received, a situation verified by users on the Overwatch public test realm. To quote Jeff Kaplan though, quote, you have to keep in mind that the system doesn't have infinite content, so at some point you're obviously going to get duplicate items. You would need an infinite amount of content to have no duplicates, end quote. Or Blizzard could let people stockpile locked loot boxes, which unlock when the next event happens and thus more skins become available, or you could just stop gathering loot boxes. I know I sound like a broken record on this stuff. This change sounds great, and from seeing folks test it on the PTR, it seems to be working. But better is not the same as good, in precisely the same way that a heart attack is better than a brain aneurysm. Another incredible change to Overwatch, though, that I wanted to give some mad props for, is the highlight feature. Overwatch players will be able to export their highlights to a video file, including a new method where people can bookmark their own highlights in addition to the ones that the game generates automatically. And the game can also use any available quality settings for that video export. So if you're playing on a potato, you can still export ultra settings 4K resolution 60 frames per second gameplay from your highlight reel. Personally, I wouldn't have many highlights, but I could probably put together a wicked best fails video as that comprises most of my matches. This bit of news and speculation may not affect you yet, and you probably haven't heard it from any other sources. New Nintendo Switch games, which showed up on various Canadian retailer websites after E3, such as Pokken Tournament, Super Mario Odyssey, and Metroid Prime 4, all have a placeholder pre-order price of $99 Canadian. Normally, it's best not to exactly trust retailers where it comes to unreleased video games, especially games with no release date in sight. But it is very odd that all of these unreleased Nintendo products have the same placeholder across all of the main online storefronts for Canadians. Historically, due to poor exchange rates, Canadians have been a bit hosed on video games, having to pay $80 for what is a $60 game in the US. Nintendo is also one of the few companies who doesn't really monetize their games post-launch by way of microtransactions, but rather uses Amiibo instead to do many of the same things. It's worth keeping an eye on because we might be seeing the fabled increase in video game prices, at least from Nintendo. Or maybe Canada is just becoming Australia North. IO Interactive is a game developer who has a striking amount in common with Cinderella, after Square Enix bought parent company Eidos Interactive and then put little slave IO to work scrubbing the floors. Well, after acquiescing to publishing demands to get Hitman out, poor decisions on episodic content, online-only restrictions, and other issues resulting in a $40 million loss for Square, Little IO Interactive gets to keep the Hitman IP and has been set loose on the world to be all on its own. In a very short period of time, Hitman is now only a full package, has a release demo of the tutorial levels, de novo has been removed, and IO is talking about Season 2. Hitman was a great game, marred by bad business decisions. Whether we see IO continue those bad decisions by also doing the episodic business model for Season 2 remains to be seen, but for the moment, I'm hopeful. And finally, a bit of me news. I've not talked about it much before, but now seems like a good time. I'm leaving my cushy Canadian government job this week in favor of a new, more technical but still business-oriented position. For those who don't know, and maybe to add a little bit of credibility to that I've built up over the years, the reason why I've always tended towards more dry legalese-related content is because that's what my job was for the last 4 years. The job I'm leaving was that as a manager in the business analysis sector of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. I wrote agreements, business plans, and all manner of other very particular documentation for a living. Thus my interest in the more law-related aspect of the game industry. And also, it's why I didn't tell too many people what I did for a living until it's now time to leave, because the public service can be a little bit cagey about outspoken members of its employ, and things like my TPP video going viral and eventually getting retweeted by WikiLeaks had me a little bit worried, among other things. The scary part is that my career change is putting me into the data center world, and I'm going to be drinking from the fire hose for the next few months as I adjust to a very different pace and type of work. So I'd like to ask for your forgiveness in advance. There are no plans to stop or slow down content, but it's going to be a bit unpredictable and there won't be much that I can do about it when it does happen, at least for the first little while. Your game releases for the week of June 25th to July 1st are as follows. In a surprise announcement that most of us figured was coming as soon as the original sales method dried up, Activision has announced a release date of June 27th for the standalone Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered for $40 US on PlayStation 4, with Windows and Xbox One to follow at some later date. The remastered standalone version doesn't include the $15 map pack, which will be sold separately. This is what we've come to, folks. Console exclusivity on a year-old remaster of a 10-year-old game with its Day 1 DLC making it almost as expensive as a brand new full-price AAA game. Activision, I think you dropped the ball on this one. You should have split the game up into episodes. I half expected them to bundle Infinite Warfare in with the remaster. Press Visa or MasterCard to pay your respects. And on June 29th, we'll see the release of a game that I've been personally looking forward to, despite the fact that Codemasters usually develops trash. Micro Machines World Series. Relive your imagination as a child, racing the tiny cars through the household obstacle-filled races without the hassle of your parents getting upset that you made a mess of the house. The game has 10 distinct tracks, 15 battle arenas, with officially licensed stuff from Hasbro like Nerf, Hungry Hungry Hippos, and more. It's ridiculous, and I like ridiculous. The game releases on the 29th on Windows, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. This has been your Game Industry News Wrap-Up for the week of June 24th, 2017. My name is Tarmack. Thanks for watching.